All right, Matty, welcome back to the Ask Matty Show, special edition show today, Matty. How are you doing?
Doing well. Just got back from a trip in San Diego and LA, so ready to be back at my desk and talk about some crypto.
Matty, we're not just talking about crypto today. The team here has brought their portfolios in their hands like this, and they want you to rate them, Matty. So that is what we're doing in today's show. But before we get into that, team, check out our website. We are from the education platform, Crypto Charge, tools, daily shows. What else do we got, Matty? I don't know. Tell them about Crypto Charge.
We got the Discord community, right? We got the Discord community. We have our coin library. We give you guys all our entries, exits, update them frequently, especially when the markets are volatile like they are right now, with any trimming ideas or short-term trade ideas. So we really try to give you guys both the fundamentals of kind of everything that has to do with crypto to get you started, and then also those resources, like I mentioned, the Discord, to make sure that there's no loose ends and that you're being redirected either to the material or we're answering your questions. So make sure you guys are also using code YouTube at checkout for 50% off.
Absolutely, Matty. We have to plug that because, team, our community is not here on YouTube. It's not on TikTok. It is in our Discord on our website. So go check that out in the pinned link down below in the comment section. And below that, check out our shop link. And finally, team, make sure you subscribe because we're growing fast and we want to keep growing. So help us out with that one. But in today's show, your portfolios, Matty's going to rate them. Matty, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Irish Bartender 442 says he lays out his portfolio. He's got some HBAR, Quant, XLM, Link with more to come. Will continue to add until May 2024. Matty, what are your thoughts on this portfolio?
So I like all the assets in this portfolio. I actually have nothing bad to say about anything 1 through 4. I think for me, one of the things I consider, especially if you're going to kind of go with a more concentrated portfolio, which is actually the kind of portfolio I prefer, is to be a little bit more concentrated. So this isn't really so much about the number of coins you have. But I think that for Oracle, you went with Chainlink. That's perfectly fine. API 3 is my pick, but better to have an Oracle than no Oracle at all, especially if you've been accumulating Link through this whole long consolidation period. You're up pretty nicely on your Link right now. And I do think that Link makes new all-time high this coming cycle. So I like that you have an Oracle in there. That's excellent. You kind of picked HBAR as your L1, and it's a good L1, I think, right? Because we have the hash graph model where we're able to get really high throughput, native NFTs, right? We have a lot of flexibility on the Hedera network. So absolutely great pick, short-term and long-term. I think that if I were to make an adjustment within this portfolio, it would be to swap 1 or 2. I think that XLM and XRP are very, very similar. Obviously, we have more maybe adoption internationally and institutional wise with XRP versus XLM, right? But if you've already done a good job building this position with XLM and you have a good average, you don't want to mess with that, right? I'd leave that alone. But maybe you look to Quant and you kind of measure ROI, right? And see which of those payment plays is maybe going to give you a better return, because you're kind of betting on 2 of the same sectors, which again, some people have larger portfolios. They got 25, 30, 35 coins and they want to have kind of a spread across all of those. But because you're kind of going with this hyper concentrated approach, which again, I don't really have an issue with, maybe consider swapping it out for like a Zcash, one of those payment plays for a Zcash, because we have multi-year lows. We have, highs that are, showing over $3,000 potentially, right? We're trading around $30 right now, 32. So I think that it might be worth considering maybe taking some of that position and rolling into, a privacy play or another sector that you don't have here. But overall, I think these are really great picks. I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10. And it doesn't even have XRP. You're right, Matty. I do like those 3 payment plays you got right there. And you don't even have XRP. So just comparing this really quick to yours, Matty, is your second payment solution pick is HBAR, correct?
Right. Yeah, we got HBAR up there.
So you got HBAR, so at least you got one out of, one of your payment plays, So what is your real thoughts like? Because I feel like we're going to get into some heavy payment play portfolios in these picks, because that's just who our followers are about. They're about the payment plays. Is that the strong focus you should have in your portfolio? Or is it worth, like you said, a Zcash sector or vertical? Should this person even consider adding another vertical within their portfolio?
I think that it's worth it. I mean, even if, let's say you want to even split half of it, right? You take maybe half your Quant and half your XLM, and then you add a sector from that half, right? You can always rebalance a multitude of ways. I would say this, right? I think this is one of the biggest talking pieces I try to give people, especially when they're new to crypto, right? Think crypto. you have a lot of these, Bitcoin evangelists out there that, tell you Bitcoin's the new money, it's the new digital gold, right? But at the end of the day, we all like to use units of measurement that are solid when we're talking about actual money, right? Nobody wants to calculate what the price of an asset is to do, business in that asset, right? We're talking maybe more about some of these payment solutions being rails, and building applications on top of it, use stable coins or synthetic dollars, synthetic euros, or whatever they end up being, right? So I always try to tell people is that not all crypto is trying to be money, right? And I think that there's a lot of opportunity out there outside of just the payment plays that people should have exposure to, both short and long term. Some of them more short term than long term, right? But especially when you look at some of the technical setups on some of those verticals outside of like just the really saturated ones that we hear about all the time, that have these really big communities, right? That's where some of the bigger returns lie. And those are the sleepers, right? I even look at some of the Dino coins that popped off in this last cycle. You had EOS and Bitcoin Cash that just did these crazy moves at the end of the cycle, popping off 300, 400% in a single day. And I think that I've identified some of those in these sectors that people are paying less attention to right now, like Zcash, right? If you look up the Zcash community, it's not that big right now, but the coin's been around a very long time, uses the same proof of work model as Bitcoin does. And then all addresses now from 2021 forward, right, are shielded addresses by default, right? So, and I think that there is value in both, having a network that anyone can build on without permission, but then also maintaining some of that privacy so we don't have to reveal, that we paid our hairdresser $35 or, that we went to the grocery store and we spent $165, right? That's not necessarily information everybody needs to know. So I think it's a very niche sector. And I know when I suggest it to people, some people, they just don't feel like they have the budget for it and they don't want to, add another vertical or take away from their current DCA, and that's fine. But that's really why I'm kind of, at least suggesting that people take into consideration some of the returns that are available on things like Zcash.
Meth head or ETH head, he says in order of largest to smallest: Casper, ETH, HBAR, Algo, Near. And he also listed his wife below with ETH, Solana, Bitcoin, and Matty. Let's look at the husband's portfolio here, Matty, and then maybe we can compare them. So let's look. What is your thoughts on ETH head's portfolio here?
So obviously, if I'm going to have to pick between two of the granddaddies, right, or two of the big boy picks, if I had to choose between ETH or Bitcoin, I would definitely pick ETH over Bitcoin. Just also return wise, what's actually being built on ETH, would absolutely pick ETH over Bitcoin any day of the week. That being said, I feel like, first of all, you've identified Casper as an excellent L1 here, and it's on the top of your list. It is your most accumulated coin by ranking, according to how you've listed your portfolio here. So to kind of bet on ETH doesn't really make a lot of sense to me from return wise, especially if you also kind of see like a lot of dApps potentially being built on Casper over the coming years, right? Because you have, first of all, higher staking rewards. You have way better ROI potentially because we haven't had the run like ETH had. ETH also didn't even come back and take out a lot of its June lows. So it's actually stayed a lot more elevated. And I'll make the same critique of Matty out of that other portfolio that was there, is that Matty, yes, I'm far more bullish on Matty as a scaling solution for ETH, but it stayed super elevated. It didn't really give that same pullback and that same opportunity to like re-enter and get some deep discounts like we saw on some of the other altcoins, like you have on Algorand in here, right? I think Algorand's definitely one of those asymmetric trades that people are ignoring. I definitely hold some Algo in my portfolio, and it's gotten beat up. We finally found a little bit of a bottom there. It's the kind of the story we're seeing with a lot of the altcoins right now. But I think Algo is definitely a great payment play. Now, it does not represent anywhere close to the size of my XRP position, right? Obviously, that's my big boy. But when I look at Algo, I look at the returns, I look at even some of the swing opportunities, and I think that Algo is going to be one of those tools potentially to help me kind of pivot between different plays and add to my laggards. So love that you have Algo in there. Near protocol, honestly, just don't really like the VCs behind it, but that's again, me not doing the most research on Near. I just remember when I reviewed it, I want to say a little about it a year and a half ago, as a company anyway. We reviewed this project, one of my business partners did, and we really didn't love the tokenomics at the time. Maybe those have improved, maybe those have changed, so I don't want to speak out of turn if things have improved on Near protocol, but I do think that there are really amazing plays out there that are going to potentially breed you a bigger reward than some of the things that went really ballistic because they listed it at the right time in this last cycle, right? And I want you guys to kind of consider that, is that some projects get the benefit of launching at the beginning or mid stages of a bull run, right? And in turn, the community rallies because they associate price with quality of network or team or performance, right? But that's not true. Those are not necessarily indicators of that, right? Just like we've seen projects that were born in a bear market that have, 18 times better the tokenomics of something like Shiba, right? And you're still going to see, potentially people pile into Shiba because they say, hey, well, Shiba did this last cycle, so Shiba's going to do it again this cycle, right? And again, I'm talking about also legitimate assets that had the benefit of being born inside of a bull market, right? So, I don't ever want to chase previous highs of like, even with XRP, right? XRP did a 60,000% return from the 2013 low up to the 2018 high. I don't ever expect to see that on XRP again, right? And I think that we just need to be realistic about what returns that we're potentially going to see. So, maybe reduce some of the ETH, maybe reduce some of the near exposure, and I would dump that into something else that's definitely going to give you potentially better spread in your assets. Because if you guys like these things long term, and there's really only a handful that are still at their lows right now, I think API 3 is still at its lows, right? I'd probably migrate some of that near into API 3 or some of that ETH into API 3. You would still be kind of betting on the ETH ecosystem if you were to buy into API 3. And I think you're going to have a much better ROI. You would also be exposing yourself to an Oracle. You still have Casper as an L1. You still have HBAR technically as an L1 in here. And Algo is still a very strong payment play. So I think that's, some of the considerations that I would give to this portfolio. And again, everyone has their own fundamental convictions for what they believe in most. And I perfectly respect that. And if you have kind of a different long-term plan that's different than mine, or maybe you're just, deep into these ecosystems and, you see the roadmap a little bit more clearly than mine, absolutely stay the course, right? This is not financial advice. But these are just some of the things that I would consider, building a portfolio out. And also I do get people who come to me with their portfolios and, we can't give any financial advice, but I try to give them a little bit of, encouragement and guidance, at least into, why I would maybe consider if it was my portfolio doing some of these things.
All right, Matty, now we got the wifey's portfolio, so maybe give like a little bit of a rating here and maybe pin them up against each other. Whose portfolio do you really like more here?
I kind of want to mix match your portfolios. I just want to cross them real quick. I like Matic really long term a lot. I think that it's really going to be one of the biggest gifts that the Ethereum ecosystem can receive is the scaling of Ethereum fees and being able to mint NFTs on Polygon. I think that you're going to see a lot less direct demand on the Ethereum network as you see some of these Polygon NFTs pick up. Now Solana offers a lot of the same things. I will always have the bone to pick that Solana had significant downtime more than once in a single year. Again, maybe that's fixed, always moving forward. But, I try not to get too attached to these household names, guys, because, in the early days of the internet, right, you had some of these tech companies worth, valued at billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? And now a lot of those competitors are not even talked about. MSN is a great example of that, right? Like, raise your hand if you use MSN as your browser. No, none of you guys use MSN, right? But these are, projects that were valued at ridiculous prices, right? So again, I'm not saying anything bad about the long-term future of these networks, but I always want to try to be able to dry myself up as much as I can by the end of the bull so that I can reinvest in some of the newer and better tech that potentially comes out as time goes on, right? You guys see that there's reason that there's Ethereum competitors because the tech that was built for Ethereum was built a long time ago, right? When the Bitcoin white paper was written, we had not even moved over to 4K. We were still on 1080p yet, right? So there's lots of advancements that happen outside of just crypto and the ecosystems alone that we have to consider, right? That are going to change and we want to be ready for that. That being said, right, if you're going to be trading cycle to cycle and you just want to, have kind of the quote unquote guaranteed winners, right? That's why people pick Bitcoin and ETH. The returns for Bitcoin and ETH are going to continue to get smaller and smaller each cycle, even as the crypto ecosystem grows, right? Even if we imagine, let's say the crypto market at, $30 trillion in the next 7 to 10 years, which would be enormous exponential growth, right? You guys don't think we're going to continue to see a drop off in Bitcoin and Ethereum dominance as time goes on, right? So those are the reasons why I'm not long-term bulls on these. I absolutely will leverage trade these. I'll trade from zone to zone, but I just don't think the long-term rewards are there. Like, even if you look at Bitcoin now at 35K, right? What's a 10x from here? $350,000 for each Bitcoin, right? And at some point, we need to start doing something crazy important with Bitcoin for us to continue to store our money there, right? It's not like we're talking about with XRP where there's, this immediate need to constantly free up these coins for the ODL and, to keep the money moving. With Bitcoin and ETH, they just have these very slow, validations and it's just not effective. It's not cost effective. So I just don't think it's the best tech and I don't think it's the best rewards. And the longer we hold those assets, right, I think that we'll continue to see more tech come out and develop and improve on those downfalls, and that's always true, right? Especially in the tech industry, it's always evolving. So if I was you, right, especially if you're in profit, maybe consider reducing some of that Bitcoin and ETH exposure and look at some of the other assets out there that are still lagging behind. You have zero Casper in your account at all right now. Casper is at its lows, right? Those are like 2.5 cents, trading like 3 pennies and some change right now. We're looking at the previous daily candle close on Casper at $1.36, right? You put that up, even against the best case scenario for Bitcoin this cycle, you are outperforming Bitcoin multiple times over, right? So again, if you want to have a little bit of ETH because you see the ecosystem, great. I don't think the Bitcoin position is going to do very well for you. I think Solana's heated up a bit. It's definitely maybe an idea to trim a little bit here at where at major resistance. Again, this is November 14 here. And maybe if you like Matty long-term, right? But again, a lot of these assets stayed very elevated through this last run. If these are your long-term holds, you're doing great. But continue to look around and not just listen to what's the most popular coin for me to own right now. Because if everyone owns this, then the price is going to go up. Yeah, it'll go up. But how much money needs to enter the market for it to enter to get to your prices, right? These are always the math problems I have people do is like, okay, yeah, you're talking about this $10,000 XRP overnight, 100 billion tokens. Well, guys, come on. Let's think about how much money we have to pour into the market overnight. Like, it's not going to happen. These railways would be all backed up from fiat leaving the banks. Like, you're absolutely crazy. So, maybe consider exposing yourself to maybe even some HBAR over the ETH. Consider exposing yourself to some Casper. Matic is kind of your payment play. You don't have a payment play really right now. Look at Quant, look at XLM, look at XRP, look at Algorand, right? That's one thing that's glaringly missing in your portfolio. But that's kind of how I would approach that. So we'll go with portfolio 1. We'll probably I'm going to give this a 7, maybe a 6.8. We'll go 6.8. Nice. And then on portfolio number 2, I'm actually just going to have to give you a 4.5 on this. And again, I think it's a very safe portfolio, but you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot when you have a lot of altcoins that have not popped yet, and even on a retracement could provide you potentially better returns than Bitcoin and ETH making new all-time highs.
Valid. Husband, maybe show your wife some payment plays. Obviously, you're in the know with you got Casper, but you got the payment plays like HBAR, Algo. Maybe, let her know a little bit. Let her know. You tell her, hey, honey, it's all right. We don't got to invest in Bitcoin anymore. It's not 2013. All
right, definitely.
Boydie's artwork shows his portfolio here: XRP, Quant, XLM, VeChain, Kudos, Ali, Gala, SHIB, tiny bit of Luna Classic, HBAR, and they're not in order, so we don't really know what's at the top here, Matty. So what is your thoughts? Just, I guess, assume they're all even. What is your thoughts on this portfolio?
I guess we'll kind of just knock these on or off a little bit more on the fundamentals, kind of how we'd approach that, because we don't know your allocations. So obviously, I'm not going to talk up XRP anymore. It's going to look like shilling according to you guys in most of the comments if I say something positive about XRP. Maybe if I hold my middle finger up while I talk about XRP, it'd like cancel it out. But obviously, love XRP. Great payment play. I plan on always holding some XRP long term. Of course, if I get the opportunity to sell my XRP at an enormous high, and I see some other payment play emerging that I think is going to run laps around XRP long term, I'll definitely look to migrate some of that into a new tech. But right now, I really like XRP a lot. I don't think it's had its run. We had the suppressed high back there during the 2020 bull run, or 2021 bull run, right, because of the SEC lawsuit. Even though we still made good returns, right, like a 13x from the lows. But still, not making a new all-time high. Didn't get its time to shine. I think we get it this time around. I was even looking at a scenario with my team of, look, we've been cooking a long time on XRP here. We've been accumulating a long time. Maybe like $26 as a blow off top is on the table, right? So I'm looking at XRP as definitely one of my best plays. Again, I covered this in the last one. XLM is kind of a repeat, just because we've also been seeing a lot of, again, similar mirroring price action with these crazy pops. Like even with the news we got yesterday, the fake XRP ETF filing from BlackRock, XLM popped exactly the same way. It also popped almost percentage-wise and structure-wise the same as XRP did on the ruling in the SEC v. Ripple case, right? So we're seeing a lot of running together. They're very similar mechanisms, and obviously because Ched McCaleb created the part of the XRP ledger as well, right? So obviously took a lot of that, applied it to XLM, and was like, it's very different, right? But it's really not. They're pretty similar. So I would consider swapping out the XLM for, again, maybe something like a API 3 or a Zcash. You have Gala Games in there. I hope this was not on Coinbase earlier this year, because they did do a fork in May of this year. Gala did. Again, Gala is a metaverse specific chain, by the way, guys. So they did a fork earlier this year, and Coinbase announced whether they would not be supporting this airdrop. So if you had the V1, Gala, and you left it on exchange, you did not receive any of the V2, and there's no way to really get it. So you can dump your V1 on exchange. Hopefully this wasn't the case for you. Hopefully you had it in a cold storage wallet, which you are able to collect that V2, but Coinbase is not going to be giving that to you. So I'm hoping we're talking about Gala V2. If so, definitely, obviously, anything metaverse to me is a little bit risky right now, just because we've seen such little, at least approach from some of these bigger industries, like wanting to build on these other chains. Something I was talking to my team about the other day is, hey, listen, I think Gala's going to do well. Do I like Gala long term? I think that the metaverse sector is really, really young, like incredibly young. The other thing to consider is that when you look at some of these bigger game providers, right? Because what do we really need for mainstream adoption? You need to integrate metaverse gaming into NFTs, into the Xbox marketplaces, the PlayStation marketplaces, the Steam, the Battle.net, right? You need to integrate them automatically there. You don't want people to have to go take their stuff and go sell it on another marketplace. Also, why would Activision Blizzard, who made $5.5 billion in 2022 alone, let you take all of their stuff, all their content, all their NFTs, and then just go sell it on another marketplace where they collect royalties, right? So I'm not saying that Gala or other, Sand or Mana can potentially still be used as rails for somebody like Microsoft or PlayStation or Xbox or whoever, right? I guess PlayStation, Xbox, Microsoft, same thing. Either which way though, right? Like they're going to want to create some sort of situation where they're going to be receiving the biggest yield for that, right? So I would say it this way: if you're going to be betting on the metaverse gaming, make sure you're also betting on what's currently being produced now game-wise, right? Because there's not the same base playing these games as other games, okay? So not to get on too big of a tangent, I would maybe look to buy and sell metaverse projects cycle by cycle, if that makes sense. Looking at VeChain, I love VeChain. I'm a VeChain owner myself. Very big on supply chains. That's one of the biggest use cases on VeChain. Very, very cheap to use right now. I think it's an excellent price. I'm looking at about $1 end target there. You got Ollie Finance in there. That's a DeFi product that I took a peek at. You got around $3 million market cap, so it's a very small cap. My only beef with these micro caps, like the really, really tiny caps, is that it only takes a small amount of money to manipulate the pool, right? So one whale could come in there with like maybe a couple $1 million, splash things up, and then you guys all get rugged on that, right? All the liquidity dries up as everyone panic sells. So that's just the only thing to consider with those. I hope that you've done some research on that. Kudos is built on the Cosmos ecosystem. I am bullish on the Cosmos ecosystem as a whole. I think interoperability is important. I think it's going to be kind of also, as we move forward, is it going to be Polkadot or is it going to be Cosmos? At least for the keys for interoperability. So I'm waiting to kind of see also like what's the first big institution to adopt one of these interoperability platforms, right? Like the Polkadots or the Cosmos. And I think that'll tell us more long term, but I don't have any problem with the Cosmos ecosystem. Again, if it's a smaller cap, make sure it's proprietary, make sure it stands out, there's something special about it, right? You have QNT, you get another payment plan. This is your third payment plan. I love everything in ISO 20022. We've also talked about making yourself a little bit more diverse, giving yourself opportunity to capitalize on other verticals. So again, maybe consider swapping that if you didn't swap the top first one for the Zcash, maybe for the API 3. Again, I would probably rather you dump your Alley position over the QNT position. But again, opportunity to spread yourself out a little bit more. You could also look at like a DAG, maybe like Constellation Network or AVAX as one of your next potentials, right? Luna Classic, if you did not receive this as part of an airdrop, or I guess even if you did receive this as part of the airdrop or when it forked out, right? Or I guess you would have received the new Luna. This is useless, right? Like, yes, you might see some of these resurge, right? We saw like FTT pump and SHIB pump and all these other pump, but like, you're lining yourself up with some other decent, good long-term fundamentals, and then you kind of just still have your Lunk C in there, right? Same thing with the Shiba. Like, come on, like I don't have to tell you why this is a bad idea. Yes, you could always make money on it. There's always something who makes money, but eventually, right? Eventually something's going to catch up, right? And everything that's made of shit can't fly forever. And a lot of these, coins are going to start having to adhere to things like the Ripple case, right? Like, especially now this becomes case law, you're going to have people who come back and lean on that, right? And if they don't look a lot like what happened in the Ripple case, they're going to have a difficult time coming up with their own defense of this wasn't an unregistered security. We are sufficiently decentralized, right? This is what our tokenomics show, right? Because a lot of these are not decentralized networks, right? A lot of these are just straight up cash cows, funnels, and useless networks that nobody's putting real computation on. Last one you have here is HBAR, another L1. I absolutely love HBAR. I have nothing bad about to say about that. So again, there's no Casper, no API 3 or Link. I would prefer API 3 over Link because there's better return, and there's no Zcash. So maybe consider taking, one of your payment plays, rolling it into a Zcash. Maybe you even condense your portfolio a little bit, right? Maybe we see less coins on here. Maybe the SHIB and Lunk move forever, and we just replace, XLM and Quant with Zcash and API 3, right? So there's opportunity for you to handle this a variety of different ways. Again, not financial advice, just looking at how if I were to, have this portfolio and I had to fix it myself, those are some of the things that I would consider potentially doing. So I think you've got a right idea on a lot of these, but again, be very careful with the small caps, get rid of the absolute junk, and just pile into high quality assets that haven't taken off yet, because that's really the easiest and best way to play the long game.
Matty, why do you think like these people hold on to assets like this? Because obviously, okay, let's just assume he got the Luna, the Terra Luna, left over there, and he didn't swap it at all. Why don't people swap their altcoins? Why do they just keep it in their portfolio, like the SHIB? Like, why are we holding on to the SHIB? Why do people hold on to those? Because I'm just assuming here these have to be smaller positions, because if they're not, I'm going to be super sad. So they're small positions in our world over here. Why don't they just swap them from other altcoins? Because I've seen this happen time and time over again. People just want to hold on to them. Aren't they just kind of making it harder on themselves in the bull run?
I think it comes back to a concept I've talked about many times, and that's being married to your assets. And that goes for losses as well, right? It's like, oh, I've already put this much into it, and we're already down at these prices, and I don't want to take the loss now. And it's kind of like this emotional battle that we have with ourselves instead of approaching investing through a logical lens, which we should always do our best to do. And I think that, some of these micro caps and some of the smaller picks that people have is they see what's happened for some of these meme coins, or they see what's happened for some of these coins that launch and it does another 4 or 5x, and they want to be a part of that. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money and be a part of the wave, but a lot of this market is positioning yourself before the moves happen. Time in market is more important than timing the market. And that's difficult for a lot of people, is staying consistent and sticking with to your guns when it comes to fundamentals and not chasing the next new thing. Taking a look once a month or every 3 months and being, is my portfolio relatively weighted, right? Have I been DCAing into something that's maybe a little more elevated in price? Are my dollars maybe more better spent on some of the other assets I have that are, at their average right now, and I can continue to build a position there while some of my other assets are, kind of getting a little bit of move right now? That's how I'm approaching my portfolio even actively now, is right, always trying to make those adjustments and cuts as the market's moving, so that you're able to squeeze as many dollars as you can in before things get parabolic, right? Because by that time, you're going to have, less of an opportunity to make the same gains in the market, right? A lot of what I'm going to be doing is more, so I'm swing trading with my existing bags, but more leverage trading than just trying to add to my long-term positions at that point, right? Because that's going to give me more opportunity to use more size, to be able to not have to touch my long-term holds until we get to those targets, other than swing trading, right? There's a lot of opportunities to play this market. So, at this point, especially at this point where we see a lot of retracement activities, you don't need to put all of your chips on small caps or what did well the last 2 cycles, right? Do your fundamental research, look for the best technical setups after you've done the fundamental research, and then execute, right? That's really what it comes down to. So really not a terrible portfolio. I would say about half of this is decent. I would just look to maybe reorganize some of these smaller ones and make sure that you have absolutely the best technical and fundamental setups possible.
So Matty, you say this portfolio is decent. It also has some picks that we're not too fond of over here. I mean, we spent a whole show just shitting on SHIB and Luna, I think, like a couple shows ago. So
Right.
Obviously there's some cryptos we don't like in here, but now it's time to get a rating. What would you rate this portfolio?
So to be fair about this, right, I'd say about roughly maybe half to 40% of this list I don't really like. With the last portfolio, right, that only had 4 assets in it, I gave it about a 4.5 because I didn't like the assets that were in it, and they were also highly concentrated in what I considered to be the smaller returners, right? I think that there's a lot of assets in here that could be very, very high returners, and sometimes some periods almost reach too far into the other category, like Ali Finance, right? And again, maybe it's a micro holding, but we want to be as diligent as we can with all of our dollars. So, overall, I think that you've got the right idea on a lot of these assets: Quant, HBAR, VeChain, XRP, XLM. Again, you can go ahead and make a decision that's good for you. Gala could be very good for this next cycle. I'm going to give you a 5.5 out of 10 on this because I think that you've got a decent amount of diversity. Some of the diversity you do have, though, I'd like to see condensed and rolled into some higher quality assets.
Troy Meachams, and he just threw us his portfolio. So you got XRP, you got ADA, Casper, CAS, Bitcoin, HBAR, ETH, Solana, Anchor, Luna Classic, Doge. Matty, what are your thoughts? And we got the prices here, so you get to see boom, 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 exactly what he's got. What is your overall thoughts on this portfolio?
My overall thoughts on this portfolio is this looks like it's straight out of side of Uphold, which is giving me the absolute heebie-jeebies considering you have $123,000 worth of XRP on exchange right now. I digress. You guys know how big of a fan and proponent I am of cold storage. Obviously, love the XRP position, right? I'm not going to ever tell you to cut down your XRP position until it's we get into this next run, right? You've got a really nice amount of XRP here to work with. Cardano, my again only beef with it is that we had this crazy run off of basically a promise. Didn't really have much building. I know Cardano has come a lot further since then. Smart contracts have been worked on. But being your second biggest holding, surprised some of that maybe isn't going into Casper. CAS on its own has been a crazy big uptrend. We've talked about that a lot. If you bought in from the lows, I don't see why not to keep holding. But if you just started buying in now and you've seen how elevated we are, I think that's a little bit of a risky play to make. That's just my personal take there. Some of these other amounts are smaller amounts here. It looks like you just have a little bit of Bitcoin in there, a little bit of HBAR, a little bit of ETH. So maybe ETH for transactions or whatnot. Surprised that your Solana position is about the same size as your ETH. I would expect that to maybe be a little bigger based on some of the other picks you have here. Let's get rid of that Lunk C and that Doge, man. I don't know what we're doing with that. I don't think that it's worth even we're looking at, we say it's a small amount of money compared to your XRP position, obviously, but you're looking at even that, $1,500 down there. It doesn't make sense to me when you could be dumping that into Casper or into your HBAR or, I don't know, really anything else on here is a better use of your dollars than to leave them there. And it seems like you clearly understand utility because your XRP position is the size of the moon. When you look at Anchor, it's also another small position there. I don't have a problem with Anchor. I think that, it didn't actually get as big of a run as I thought it was going to get last cycle. I don't have a problem with you holding on to that. I think that's actually a decent hold right there. So I think that you're definitely highly concentrated into XRP. I don't think that you're ever going to break that up, at least not anytime in the near future. And I wouldn't suggest you do. You probably have a good long-term cost basis on this. I would maybe shake some of that ADA down into Casper, take a look at what your CAS situation is, see, what your average is, because double check that chart, man, because it's been a very aggressive climb for CAS, and, not doubting that it won't go further, but, I try to position myself in front of assets that haven't moved yet. The rest of your holdings here are just relatively on the smaller side compared to your largest position. So I don't really have any major rebalancing moves here. So overall, I think it's pretty decent. Obviously, I don't like the Lunk and the Doge at the bottom. Those should be transferred to something more valuable. I think the CAS could also be rolled into something higher profit here. So, maybe a little biased, but I'm going to give you a 6.8 here because I think you have one of the biggest utility plays for this upcoming cycle. I'm going to imagine that this might change for you by next cycle, but I don't think you're poorly positioned.
Matty, that was awesome. We have a lot more portfolios that I brought here to the table, but we can't get into it. We're just out of time, these portfolios. And I love that you go into detail with these portfolios because I have seen some other people do this and they skim and they're kind of off basis. Thank you for those ratings because I think those give real good perspective. And I hope that's what you get from this team. I hope you don't get, oh, Matty, why'd you say this? Why'd you say that? If you want to know why Matty says the things he says about cryptos, look at the fundamentals, look at the technicals. What was the other thing? Long-term vision.
Long-term vision, yep.
You have to have long-term vision with these assets because then, if you don't have long-term vision, you're going to invest in things like SHIB, like Luna Classic, things that, I love what you said today, Matty, because eventually it's going to catch up with you. We can talk about Luna and SHIB, how it's going to pump next cycle, it's going to retrace a bit, but the truth is, team, those assets are going to catch up with you at some point. And also, if you have all those cryptos, like those huge, long, 13, 16, 21 number portfolios of cryptos, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. Matty, we stress it. You stress it all the time. That's something you ingrained to me early. It's like, man, you're going to have to sell all of this at some point. Do you want to make it harder on yourself? No, you don't, So, Matty, thank you for that perspective. If you had to give 1 inch, because I know you have the infamous the infamous, what is it? The consistent, oh, we haven't talked about it in so long. The consistent investor strategy, which is like the strategy you should be taking. And if you want to check that out, it's on our website. The strategy you need to be investing in cryptos, which is something like I always reference. Someone was asking in the Discord the other day, about cryptos. I'm like, because as an investor, you go check it out on the website. What are you doing? Like you have to be in the know. If you know Matty, you have to know that strategy. Matty, if you had to give one tip for one of these people here that are really looking to change their portfolio or maybe even start a portfolio, what is one piece of advice you would give for them?
If you want to be more involved during this retrace, even right, what we're experiencing right now, we're seeing some altcoins catch up, Bitcoin work over some resistance here, work through some of those retracement levels, which again, I want to remind you guys, does not mean only up, right? You get these huge pumps. It does not mean that corrections are not in the picture, right? There's plenty of corrections that happen. This is where most people get excited. This is where the most people get wrecked because they're not paying attention to where price is going. They're not paying attention to what levels were previously broken. They're not waiting patiently for a pullback to broken areas. So if those are things that you guys struggle with, those are the things that I cover every single day on our show. Those are the things that we help people with in our Discord every single day, is getting them honed in on these fundamentals. I promise you, you don't need to buy, a $600 suite of indicators. You don't need to, spend all this money on this magic program, right? It's really more about mastering the fundamentals and then honing your emotions in, right? If you're able to do both of those things successfully, you can make a lot of money through this retracement, right? We're going to be doing a lot of limited ordering. I currently have 5 different trade ideas in our Discord right now that are ranging from, ETH to other altcoins, right? So we have a lot of opportunity in there. So make sure you guys are paying attention for the next 12 to 24 months. I think it's going to be very exciting. And I think we have a lot of new all-time highs in our future.
I love that, Matty. Team, please, you have to like this video if you stay this long, just because we went over time, Matty, and I know this is, your brain, you always lock in with these, but I know you have to go do another show after this, so, it's kind of, so since he did that, like this video, and also I want to know, it's been on my mind, because you guys have been loving, the tier list, and I'm pretty sure you guys are going to love this portfolio reviews and rates, whatever. I need you guys to let us know which one you like more, because we might be doing a special edition holiday. I don't know if we'll do Christmas or Thanksgiving here, Matty. We'll have to talk about it. It's just, it's popped in my mind, and, I want to do something special for that, because because we're not going to be doing all this bullshit next year. Next year is we're going to be lasered focused. You guys have a lot of questions during that time. And that's the time I want you to lock in with these people, Matty, that have the questions, so that we can direct them, the proper channels on where to get that help. Crypto charge, ask the questions they need to ask you. Because next year is going to be a crazy year, in 2025. That whole series we got coming up here. So in the meantime, in this time we got going on right now, we'll play little games with you. We'll do crypto tier list. We'll do the portfolio stuff, whatever. Drop it in the comment section down below which one you want to see on a upcoming holiday. But Matty, I think that's all we have for today. So until next time, team, see ya.